This is Darren McCarty, four-time Stanley Cup champion, Detroit Red Wings, Lemieux killer, Stanley Cup winning goal guy. You're listening to SportsRadioDetroit.com.
Tigers, SRD. Welcome to another episode of Tigers SRD here on SportsRadioDetroit.com. Excuse me. I'm Roger C alongside Chris Brown as we're both underneath the weather as the Tigers are in the middle of a road trip and plenty to get to with that. Just some struggles against the White Sox, losing 3 out of the 4 against the Sox, and now in a 4-game set with Kansas City. We'll be talking to Max Reaper of the Royals Review. We'll be talking about the series, farm system, and where the Royals stand, if they're going to be buying or selling as well at the trade deadline. And it was a team that, Chris, this is a team 2 years ago that won the World Series. We've talked about them a little bit, and look at Joakim Soria's bullpen appearance last night, and it's easy to see why he was on the market for so long.
Yeah. Sorry. I was just caught up in the Tigers game. What'd you say?
No, it's okay. Just Soria looking bad last night.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, he didn't get an out, right? He gave up 4 or 5 hits. I mean, it's crazy the way that the Royals have transformed from, it seemed like this unstoppable winning machine 2-3 years ago. And really, the roster hasn't changed that much. I mean, they lost some key pieces, obviously, when they had Cueto for the home stretch and Zobrist. But other than that, I mean, the bullpen has been completely changed too. But they traded Davis away and then let Holland go. But really, the only other key member of the offense that I can think of that's gone is Kendrys Morales. I mean, Jared Dyson was kind of a part-time player, but Hosmer's still there, Escobar, Salvador Perez, Moustakas, Lorenzo Cain, Alex Gordon, all those key guys are there, and they're just not scoring runs at all this year. But maybe that's the way, when they were winning, everybody kind of thought it was a fluke, and they couldn't keep it up because it seemed like they were continually hitting with men on base and doing these things that you're not supposed to be able to do. Like they're just considered luck, and they just kept doing it, and now it seems like the luck has turned. But maybe Max can give us more perspective on that.
Absolutely. And they have, Ian Kennedy's on a DL. Danny Duffy just hit the DL, so a lot of their rotations also been hit up with injuries. So they're calling up a lot of guys, including the gentleman who was pitching for them tonight. And honestly, Chris, what can you tell me as I'm trying to pull up the starter's name?
Eric Skoglund?
Is it Skoglund? Okay, Skoglund? I wasn't sure how to say it.
I can tell you that I had not heard of him before tonight. And I looked him up, and sure enough, he's among the Royals' top 5 prospects. But the Royals don't have a prospect in the top 100 in any list that I've seen. So they have a really poor farm system right now. So, but this is a guy. He's 6'7", and a lefty. So he's got a little funk to his delivery. The Tigers really can't seem to pick up on his fastball. But none of his other pitches are anywhere above average. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to even call some of them average, but he's got just enough deception with that his kind of big Madison Bumgarner-like arm swing. Tigers are just laid on his fastballs all day long. I think he's at like 60 pitches through 6 innings. So,
a guy I do want to talk about too, as well as Foster Griffin, who was just called up to take Danny Duffy's place, and he'll be getting the start as well. He'll be getting some time. He was pitching down with the Naturals, so he'll be getting. But he got called up as the Royals. He's 21 years old, 6'3" starter. He was drafted in the first round in the 2014 draft, so he's going to get some time and some starts as well.
Yeah, no, and he's kind of the Royals have a bunch of guys who have the potential to make the majors, but it seems like almost everybody has a really iffy, like they all have some pretty big flaws. I think Griffin is probably not all that different than Skoglund. He's just kind of a lefty with a bunch of average stuff. But they don't really have any better options right now. The system is kind of barren. And if you look at their drafts, their top draft choices, they're going on like a decade of not much success with their first overall pick. A couple years ago, they took 2 high school kids, and both of them have just been disasters so far. I think one of them's only thrown like 20 innings in 2 seasons. So their best picks were probably Brandon Finnegan, who you remember he pitched in the College World Series and in the Real World Series in the same season.
Yeah, that's correct. Did you remember him? Yep.
They traded him away to the Reds for Cueto, and then the other best pick was Sean Manaea, who they took the year they took Hunter Dozier, I think it was. They worked out a deal with Manaea to get him later in the draft, and he's been good, but they traded him to the A's for Zobrist. So they traded their 2 best prospects to win a World Series, which is it's what you do when you have a chance. But now they're looking at what happens afterward. And
we'll get to we'll ask Mass this question too, because they did a really good. And I was reviewing. I go to the website quite a bit. I want to talk about his revisiting the 5 years later draft, where he talks about Kyle Zimmer, and Kyle Zimmer was part of that draft where you look at the 2012 draft that has Buxton come out of that, Addison Russell, Corey Seager, Marcus Stroman. There's a couple busts in there, but the Royals in that draft did not get too much out of him, and they could have taken Corey Seager, as he points out. So I'm really interested to see what they get. He also points out too as well that they could have gotten Alex Wood in the second round. Instead, they took a guy by the name of Sam Selman, who is still in Double-A. In the third round, Colin Rogers in High A. They could have taken Andrew Tolles, if you guys are familiar with Andrew Tolles. And then in the fourth round, their infielder Kenny Doak Roger is out of baseball.
Kenny Deke Roger?
Yeah,
I think that's a baseball name, Deke Roger, but I'm not. Yeah, it's you can look at most teams' drafts and see some huge missteps where they missed just on a guy. Zimmer is a real bummer of a case because he had nasty stuff, but he's never been able to stay healthy. And I think that was the same draft as Kevin Gausman. Gausman's in like his 4th major league season right now, and Zimmer has never even come close to the majors yet.
I do want to. It's what's interesting. I was just going to see what's interesting about this too. Out of that draft, 1, 2, 3, 4. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players out of 20 players drafted? The rest of them are out of baseball. Chris.
For the Royals or in the first round?
In the entire draft, in the 2012 draft. Daniel, and of which 2 of them one of them is with the Tigers currently right now, and that's Daniel Schrumpf, who's in AAA.
Oh yeah, well, God, if you look at the Tigers draft from 2013, I think that you'll find a very similar number of guys out of baseball.
Oh yes, yeah.
I'm pulling it up. I think we talked about it before, but let's see. That's got Jonathan Crawford, Knable, Kevin Ziomek is retired, Austin Kubitz is retired, Connor Harrell is retired. I think Calvin Drummond retired, so that's, yeah. It's not looking good.
No,
and that's only 4 years ago.
But, and what were you gonna say, Chris? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Royals are in the bottom. I think they're below the Tigers in draft in their farm system. Correct?
Yeah, I would certainly put them below the Tigers. They don't have. Not that the Tigers are, have a great farm system, but they have more high-end talent than the Royals, and probably more depth. Honestly, the Royals' best prospect is either Dozier, who is sort of a second division regular at first base, third base, outfield, or Josh Stelmont, who throws the hell out of the ball, but also walked 100 people last year. So it's like I said, they all have warts. It's looking like it's not going to be a great time to be a Royals fan for the next couple of years unless they sell off the pieces they have for prospects, which I think they will do. But the question then is what are the pieces they have worth? I don't know what the market for Eric Hosmer is right now, for instance.
Yeah, and for example, what do you really have on Raul Mondesi? He has a 17-game hit streak in Omaha, but again, we've talked about the Pacific Coast League before. That's still impressive, nevertheless. And he's hitting his line. He's batting 406, 427, and on base is 710. So he's done a very good job of, but again, what is he going to be? in his short time here, correct me if I'm wrong, he hasn't really hit very well in Kansas City.
I think he hit about 100 this year. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who's always been ranked really highly in prospect lists, even though he hasn't really performed in like the last 3 seasons. But he's always ranked highly because he was so young for his level. And he has the physical tools. He's really fast. He's got surprising power. I think he's good enough defender to play shortstop, and he's above average at second base. But he just seemed kind of overmatched in the majors. I wouldn't give up on him yet, but I don't know. They have to probably be a little bit concerned.
Yeah, and I think the feeling, we'll ask Max about this next segment too, is they feel like they've rushed him a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they definitely. I mean, he made his debut in the World Series, as I recall. I think he was only 20. And yeah, they thought he could help him out, and yeah, he just didn't seem ready. Having not watched him every day, I don't know what it looked like, but his numbers certainly weren't setting the world on fire. No,
and I mean, what I find interesting, what's been so interesting so far for Kansas City as well, is that depth in the bullpen is gone, and so it's not served them well. But again, the lack of offense. There's a lot of things we'll talk about, so we'll get to that. But what I wanted to talk about before we get to Max here in a few is what happened yesterday between Bryce Harper and speaking. You know what? I didn't even give a synopsis of the show. We're going to be talking. Of course, we're going to talk Royals. We just talked about that. We're going a little bit of the College World Series. I do want to talk about that. Tigers brawling in Dayton. We'll talk about the brawl with Bryce Harper and Hunter Strickland here in a second, but I also want to talk about this fatigue thing that Brad Austin said over the weekend, which the Road Show talked about a little bit, and I wanted to get your insights about it because we got some crap for it, and I don't think you got crap for it, but I think people out there who work 12-hour jobs think that they're the same competitive balance as a baseball player. So I do want to get your opinion about that. So, yesterday in San Francisco, Hunter Strickland and Bryce Harper have a little bit of history, and so Bryce Harper hit some really hard hit balls, and because Hunter Strickland apparently had nothing else better to do and couldn't get over the fact that Bryce Harper has hit several home runs against him, he decided to throw a ball at him, and one of the weirdest looking brawls I've ever seen happen. And Buster Posey just sat there and watched the whole thing unhappen. And usually you have the catcher come out and hold the batter back, but he didn't. And he just sat there and took it backwards and just watched the whole thing, and I don't blame him. And there's been a lot of goonery this year. It seems like it's more so than not, maybe because it's just the way the age of social media. But Strickland did this in a 2-0 game where the Giants still had a chance to win, but Strickland did not did not care. So that fight the helmet throw was weird by Harper. He somehow defied gravity, and the memes have been hilarious. But outside of that, Chris, this is just like this guy continues to. This guy's just a stubborn. Seems like a stubborn prick. Or I don't know what was his motivation behind it, but it just seemed really selfish to me.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, you sent me a link to the SB Nation article by Grant Brisbee, who was, I think, one of the best baseball writers going these days. And yeah, he broke it down pretty well. I mean, it goes back to a playoff series in 2014 when Harper hit 2 home runs off Strickland, and one of them was right down the line, and so Harper kind of watched it for a while to see if it was fair or foul. It's reminiscent of the Maglio Ordonez home run against Jared Weaver that caused a bunch of fireworks between the Angels and the Tigers back in the day. And Strickland, apparently that has been seething in him for 3 years and just chose this week to take it out on Harper. And, there are a lot of people who don't like Bryce Harper for whatever reason. I think some people consider him kind of douchey. Other people are in awe of his baseball skill. Baseball fans, I think, should probably embrace this guy because he's got unreal power and incredible ability. But a lot of people, you remember he got hit. Cole Hamels hit him just for being Bryce Harper in the beginning of his career. So Harper doesn't have a lot of fans, so I'm sure Strickland felt like he was, just fine to do this. But Strickland is also the same guy who, back in the World Series, I think that same year, I think he gave up a home run to Omar Infante, and Salvador Perez scored on it, and Strickland started jawing at him, yelling at him, and it caused a benches clearing incident then, just because he can't handle, I don't know, he just seems like he can't handle people getting hits off of him, which is probably not a good thing for a pitcher. You probably should be able to hold your shit when that happens. And that's, I think, probably explains why Buster Posey was just standing idly by. He didn't want to get involved in a fight for this teammate who he probably thinks is kind of a dick. I mean, it reminds me of, who was the old pitcher? It was Vicente Padilla, who used to always just go headhunting, and his teammates hated him for it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Something.
Yeah, didn't he had quite a bit of batters in his last couple of years in Philly, didn't he?
And people, like his teammates were like, come on, man, we have to wear one now because of you. And it's, guys don't like being teammates with a pitcher like that who can't control his temper. So, yeah, I mean, and Strickland I think he got suspended for 6 games.
Correct. And then Bryce Harper got 4 for the fight.
And that's, I don't know. I mean, it was hilarious because Harper tried to throw the helmet at him, and it spun sideways like a frisbee. I don't know if he if he just lost control of it, or if he at that last second decided against it. But then Strickland got a couple good shots in, and I think Harper got 1 and 2. I mean, decent baseball shots. It's no Rougned Odor against Jose Bautista, but as baseball fights go, these were okay. And then it was just the usual melee, and then jokes about people's hair.
I was going to say the hair jokes were funny, but Bryce Harper looked like he never got in a fight before. He looked like he had no idea what he's doing at all. Both of them, I don't think. And I don't have an opinion about Bryce Harper either way. And quite frankly, the older I get, the more I'm tired of these fans hating on a superstar. If you don't like somebody, for example, I can give you reasons why I don't like Derek Jeter. I think he's overrated. One of the worst war shortstops. Blah 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 blah. But the guy is Derek Jeter, and you have to respect that. Same thing with Bryce Harper. You respect his skill set. He is who he is, and I wouldn't mind the Tigers having him, hypothetically speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's he's A-Rod, and that's fine. Baseball needs A-Rods. Or Barry Bonds. They need these guys who are incredibly talented but aren't necessarily likable league-wide.
Right.
But they still embraced by their home team, and it gives other people somebody you go see, even if you just want to boo them. It's an attraction. They need that.
And what's interesting to me, too, is you look at the grand scheme of things of baseball as a whole, and really, you look at baseball as a cosmos, as a worldwide sport, as a worldwide thing. The ESPN released, and I'm going to send you a link here, and this has something to do with what we're talking about, is the World Fame 100, and it's the world's most 100 athletes viewed around the world. So guess where a baseball player comes in the play here. So just take a wild guess when the first baseball player comes up.
For the most famous baseball player in the world?
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's probably in the 40s, and it's probably somebody like Ichiro.
All right, let's see here. No, it is not. It is not Ichiro. It is not Ichiro.
Huh.
So,
I wondered how they're determining this.
I will give you that in a second. But right. So let's see here. Take another guess.
Well, I mean, I would have guessed like David Ortiz and Derek Jeter, but they're both retired now. So I feel like it should be Mike Trout, but I don't think he's marketed well enough. So I'm struggling to think here who would. Maybe I should know this. Clayton Kershaw, maybe. Although still, he doesn't seem like he gets nearly enough press for how good he is.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Chris, there's no baseball players on the top 100.
There isn't a single one?
Not a single one, my friend.
Well, I guess if you're talking worldwide, there's probably a hell of a lot of soccer players. And there might even be like rugby player or something like that.
And the athlete, I'll tell you how they came up there. The formula combines endorsements with social media, following, and internet search popularity is how they came up with it. LeBron James was number 2. Cristiano Ronaldo was number 1. Lionel Messi was number 3. Roger Federer number 4. Phil Mickelson comes in number 5. Some guy named Neymar. I never heard of Neymar.
Neymar, another soccer player.
Oh, okay.
He's Brazilian.
Number 7 was Usain Bolt. Number 8 was Kevin Durant. Number 9 was Rafael Nadal. And number 10 was Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods, y'all.
Tiger Woods, y'all. But a lot of NBA players came up on this list. Kyrie Irving came up at number 34. Cam Newton came up at number 47. The first football player that came up was number 21 with Tom Brady. Came up.
Makes sense.
But yeah, Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is number 33. Keep in mind, Derrick Rose is a bum of a basketball player, but was up there. So that's where this is. We'll get back to this list. We're going to call here Max here in a second, but I thought this list, I'm going to send you the list while you can take a look while we'll talk to Max.
Right.
So we'll be back after the break. We're going to talk to Max from Royals Review. We're just going to be talking Royals baseball, look at the farm system as well. We'll be back after the break.
You know, you have a lot of people out here who are just quacks and making up all kinds of shit and then getting celebrities to pay them a lot of money so that they think that they're getting better just because they're a high-profile therapist. Like, you have that. But what we have right here is a guy that is melting down in front of our eyes, and you just have the rest of the world saying, I don't care, whatever. You got money, so I don't care.
Fanarchy, Saturday nights from 4 to 6 on CRBRadio.com. And don't forget to check out the podcast here at SportsRadioDetroit.com. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Tigers SRD here on SportsRadioDetroit.com. I'm joined now by Max Reaper from Royals Review. And Max, welcome to the podcast. And how's it going?
It's going. I've had better times, I can say that, with the Royals not playing very well. But all in all, I can't complain too much.
Well, the Royals have the same problem the Tigers have in terms of lacking offense, and so it's been an interesting city. It's been an interesting story for Kansas City so far this season, and all the injuries that keep hitting the Royals in terms of just pitchers. Ian Kennedy going on the DL. You see Danny Duffy's now out 6 to 8 weeks with an oblique strain, and there's just a lot of guys coming up. And with the Royals having a system that they do where you look at, I think they're ranked 26 or 27 in all of MLB. Max, is there a lot of reinforcements that are coming up that have been highly effective so far? And in terms of offense, I know that they've been struggling, but the staff seems that it's been holding its own so far for them.
Yeah, I think that a lot of their problems this year haven't been because of the starting pitching staff, which is kind of odd because the last couple of years, starting pitching has not been their strength. I mean, even the year the years they went to the World Series, their starting pitching was pretty much a weakness on the team. They had to go out and get guys like Johnny Cueto to come kind of give them the ace that they lacked up to that point. So this year it's been kind of a reversal. They've actually seen the starting pitching be pretty good so far, at least to the first 6 weeks of the season. Danny Duffy pitching really well. Jason Vargas, who's in his first full season back from Tommy John surgery, so we didn't really expect anything out of him. He's been outstanding. Had an ERA around 1 over his first 7 starts. So Ian Kennedy has pitched pretty well for the most part over his first couple starts. But then in May, those guys, like you said, have all kind of hit the disabled list, and it doesn't leave them with a whole lot of depth. Now we've seen a couple of younger guys come up, and this is a farm system that doesn't have a whole lot of elite talent right now. I think a lot of observers, Keith Law, John Sickles, they rank this farm system among the bottom 5 or 6 in Major League Baseball, and there's good reasons for that. They've been contending, they haven't been drafting very high. They've had some poor drafts, to be frank, and they traded some of their good prospects away for guys like Johnny Cueto and Ben Zobrist for pennant stretches. So there's not a whole lot left, but we've seen a couple guys come up. Jake Junis came up last week. He's a guy that kind of profiles as a back of the rotation starter. Eric Skoglund came up today with his major league debut, pitched very impressively against the Tigers tonight. But he's not a guy that I think you would count on as like a future ace. He's more of another back of the rotation guy that maybe can be kind of a soft tossing lefty that can give you some innings. So I don't know that the expectations are really high on those guys, but we'll get a chance to see them now with Kennedy on the DL, with Duffy on the DL, Nate Carnes, who they had a lot of hopes for this year, and he's pitched pretty well. He's also on the disabled list now, but it just kind of adds to their problems because they got off to such a bad start, and now they have all these pitchers go on the disabled list. And you're right, the offense hasn't. I mean, it's been dreadful. They were the worst offense in baseball in the month of April. So it just kind of adds to their problems. And they're an organization that doesn't have the kind of depth to really overcome these adversities. So, I think a lot of people are starting to write the obituary for the, this Kansas City Royals era. And we're starting to see, a lot of trade rumors, and it looks like this run may be coming to an end, and it's not going to be another year of contending for the Kansas City Royals this year.
Hey, Max, is there anything you could pinpoint that's going on with the offense? Because from the outside, aside from losing Kendrys Morales and Jared Dyson, the offense seems pretty much the same as it was 2-3 years ago, other than Zobrist too, of course. But it seems like it's still the same guys.
Yeah, and then Zobrist, didn't come on the team until the team was already off to a great start. So yeah, you look at the team, and you see a lot of the same core components. You see Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas, and Alex Gordon, and they're all still on the team. I think the problem is, first of all, the offense was never really good, even when they were contending. And this is a team that kind of relied on a very specific formula to win ball games. They needed to have an offense that was high contact, putting the ball in play a lot. They were last in the league in strikeouts, or I guess first if you want to look at it positively. They had that great bullpen that if they did get a lead, would never relinquish a lead, and they had an outstanding defense that allowed them to keep games close and low scoring. So now they don't have those things. They don't have a high contact offense. They have their strikeout rates have really become league average. They have a defense that's still good, but I wouldn't say it's the best in baseball anymore. And they're the bullpen, which used to just dominate and intimidate opponents with Wade Davis and Greg Holland and Kelvin Herrera. Well, only one of those guys is still on the team. That's Kelvin Herrera, and he's had his struggles a little bit this year. So it's a pretty mediocre bullpen now. So, the offense, that the years they were contending, you kind of got some career years out of some guys like Lorenzo Cain finished third in MVP balloting in 2015. He's probably not as good as he was that year. He's still an excellent player, but probably not the kind of offense. He's probably not going to put up the kind of offense he did that year every year. So Eric Hosmer, he's continued to have a good year. Mike Moustakas looks like he's actually having one of his best years. But then you look around them, there's just not a whole lot of support. Alex Gordon, who they brought back on a 4-year deal, he's been dreadful this year. He's been one of the worst hitters in baseball. Brandon Moss, who they brought in to replace Kendrys Morales, he's been, at least in April, he was a disaster. He's come on a little more recently, but it's a little bit too little, too late. And then they're kind of carrying a couple black holes in the lineup, like shortstop, where Alcides Escobar, who was never a really great offensive player, he's become like the worst hitter in baseball. And so it's hard for a poor offense to kind of carry that kind of handicap like that. So, it's an offense that we knew wasn't going to be that great, but they really just had every single thing go wrong for them, except for maybe Mike Moustakas hitting well and Eric Hosmer hitting well. So it's hard to overcome that, and they just don't have anyone else really stepping up to kind of overcome that. Now they've gotten some nice performance from like a rookie like Jorge Bonifacio, and Whit Merrifield's kind of come out of nowhere to put a pretty good season, but it's kind of come more recently in the last couple of weeks when they've already dug this hole for themselves. So I feel like it's like I said, a little too late for them.
Now, you talk about Jorge Soler and the Wade Davis trade, and a lot of Tiger staff Tiger fans kind of wanted me to rib you a little bit about that trade, and all jokes aside, but he was, I understand he came off he missed the first 28 games of the season with an oblique injury, so that takes some time to heal. But are Kansas City, are the Royals fans being patient with him, because this guy is only 25 years old, and he's got a big bat. One of the first home runs he hit with Kansas City was over 400 feet, so this guy's got some power. And are Royals fans just waiting for him to be just injury overcoming, just kind of getting the groove a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think Royals fans already put a target on his back the day fired, because Wade Davis, understandably, is one of the most popular guys on the team, because you turn a lead over to him in the ninth inning, it's game over. I mean, he is the only pitcher in baseball to put together 2 seasons, back-to-back seasons of a 1.00 ERA or lower with at least 50 innings pitched. I mean, it's just unprecedented territory we're talking about here. And then they trade him to the Cubs for a guy with some potential. Like you mentioned, he's got outstanding power potential, but he also has a couple of major red flags to his game. Number one, he's a pretty terrible defender out there. I mean, he's been pretty laughable out there in right field. And number two, he's got an injury history, and already we've seen him on the disabled list with an oblique injury. So there's 2 red flags. We've already seen examples of that. in a short tenure with the Royals. So, and then Wade Davis, who I kind of understand why they traded him, because it looked like he had some injury problems last year, and they wanted to kind of reload. And you thought, well, if they don't trade him now, they're going to miss the window on him because he's going to get hurt pretty soon. So, you saw what, the Yankees got for Aroldis Chapman last year. You saw what they got for Andrew Miller, and you're like, well, we want in on that as well. We want to get some nice prospects for Wade Davis before he gets hurt. And so I understand why they made that trade, but it's certainly not looking good right now. Not only is Davis healthy, he's been outstanding for the Cubs, and then Soler has just gotten off to about the worst start you can get off with as a new team, the Royals. Now, I am still a believer in Jorge Soler. I think he's got great power. I think he brings a little bit of plate discipline, ability to draw walks that the Royals lack right now. But he's gotten off to a terrible start, and he's really going to have to turn it around and get going and play better defense, I think, as well, if he's going to be a valuable member of this team. And look, he's still young. He's only like 25 years old. And, the guy I keep going back to is Jermaine Dye. When the Royals first acquired him, he was terrible for 2 years, and Royals fans were ready, they were ready to call that trade a terrible trade. They traded Michael Tucker away for Jermaine Dye from the Braves, and Royals fans were ready to call that a bust. And, of course, Jermaine Dye turned it around, became a Gold Glover, became an All-Star, and one of the more valuable players in that team until they traded him away in another terrible trade. But so I think there's still, you got to be patient with Jorge Soler, and I think he still could be a valuable member of this franchise long term. But you couldn't have had a worse welcome to the franchise than what he's had. And he definitely has a lot of fans. I don't think fans are being patient at all. I think they expected a winner this year, and they expected Wade Davis to be a part of that. And now that he's not on the team, and Soler has not really helped them win ball games either, it just makes the trade look worse.
And so, speaking of trades, it appears that the Royals and the Tigers are sort of heading in the same direction this season, as teams will likely sell unless something strange happens and they get really hot. Have you guys started thinking about, which players you think will get moved and who will be, the most valuable? Is it going to be Kane? Is it Moustakas who will bring the most back?
Yeah, there's already been a lot of buzz about that the last couple of weeks, and it'll be interesting if the Tigers join them on that front, like how those two teams could actually kind of control what happens this July, I think. I think, so the Royals have really 4 key free agents that are eligible for free agency this winter: Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, Lorenzo Cain, and Jason Vargas. You could add maybe Alcides Escobar in there as well, although I don't think you're going to get much of a return for him because of the way he's hitting. So that's 4 pretty valuable players that could get you something in return, even though they are rentals. And I think it seems like the trend is teams are maybe not as willing to give up as much for rentals as they were in the past. So, then you have to kind of ask, like, what are you going to get for these kind of players? I think Lorenzo Cain is probably the guy that could net the most, just because a lot of teams could use outfielders. You could put Lorenzo Cain in any 3 of the outfield positions. He'll play great defense for you. He could be a nice top of the order hitter for you. He can fit in a lot of places. Whereas a guy like Eric Hosmer, while he may be a very valuable player in some respects, and he's been clutch in the postseason, a lot of contending teams, if they're contending, it's because their first baseman's already hitting. So not a lot of teams, I think, could use a first baseman like that. And then you got to try to find a right fit where, like, they have the prospects you want to give up, that you want to acquire, and the Royals feel comfortable. So, there's a lot of parts there that it may make it harder to trade for Hosmer. And Dayton Moore, the general manager, had some interesting comments the last couple of weeks where he said that he didn't want to make a trade just to make a trade. And you may say that's just leverage, he's just using leverage. But, last year he had Kendrys Morales and Edison Volquez as impending free agents. He had the opportunity to trade them. And he said, well, I didn't trade them. I had some offers on the table. I didn't want to trade them because I didn't think I was going to get a very good player in return. And so I didn't think it was worth trading them. They ended up getting nothing for those players. Those players walked, via free agency, and they get nothing for them. So I think he's willing to kind of say, if we don't get the right trade offer, we'll keep Eric Hosmer, and maybe we'll make him a qualifying offer this winter, and we'll get a draft pick in exchange for him. But we're not going to necessarily trade him just because some team offers us a 2-bit prospect. So they may trade some of these guys, but I'm not, as people are saying fire sale with the Royals, I'm not convinced that they're going to trade everyone away. I think Dayton Moore, first of all, I think he really believes in these guys, and he believes in, like, the family, philosophy and an organization. And so he doesn't want to trade these guys unless he really has to and gets a really great offer. So he may not trade all these guys. He may want to have Eric Hosmer mentor the next, the next wave of Royals prospects, and maybe even try to re-sign them this winter. So that's not the way I would do it. I would try to trade these guys pretty much for whatever decent prospect haul I could get. But I can see Dayton Moore taking the opposite tact and saying we'll hold on to these guys, and if we don't get the right offer, we'll see what we can get this winter for them. So we'll have to see how this shapes up. I think the Tigers and Royals both have really interesting Julys set up for them, though.
Yes, and you even look at the Royals' top 30 prospects right now in terms of depth, and the Royals looks like they could use some middle infield help. A lot of guys in single A right now, and there's not much. I don't think there's much in Arkansas, but talk about, Max, you talked about, and I really enjoyed your article about revisiting the 2012 Royals draft because Chris covers the minors for Tigstown, and the comparison to the Tigers 2013 draft, where the Tigers really did not get much out of that draft as well. You look at out of the 20 picks, only 7 or 6 they're still in the. I mean, I believe 6 or 7 are still in the system. One of them is with the Tigers right now in Daniel Stumpf. But so for the Royals right now, what do the Royals need the most in their farm system to replay? I mean, we talked about lack of offense earlier, granted, but is there anything else that the Royals really desperately need? It just seems like it's been a while since the days of. And I've watched. I mean, I grew up watching the Royals as the Tigers' mortal enemy. With, I know Kevin Napier, David Cohn, and the Royals used to produce aces. And it just seems like it has been a long time since the Royals have been able to develop one or two, like number 1, number 2 type starters. And is there any prospects along the line that are coming down the pipeline that fit that profile?
No, I think that's a really astute observation. They haven't really been developing starting pitching the way they should be. And when you're a small market team, I mean, you really need to be producing those kind of ace pitchers because, look, the Royals can't go out and pay $100 million, Zach Greinke or Jordan Zimmerman or, those kind of frontline pitchers. Zimmerman hasn't even that, has been that mixed bag. But, those kind of frontline guys, the Royals can't afford those guys. So you really need to develop them in-house. And Dayton Moore, when he came here, he said that pitching is a currency of baseball. They need to develop pitching. That's what that's what they did in Atlanta, where he came from. And so they really stressed that. But the kind of ironic thing is they haven't really been able to do that. And he produced Danny Duffy in his very first draft, and that was, a great find, although it took a while for him to kind of develop. They found Yordano Ventura in the international market. Aside from that, that's all the starting pitching they've pretty much developed. And a couple of guys that have maybe made a start or two. But, that's just not good enough when you're a small market team. And they've had a couple of really poor drafts last couple of years. They really built this team with Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas in the first couple of drafts Dayton Moore had. Well, they changed scouting directors, I think, in 2011. And since then, they drafted Christian Colon, number 4 overall, and he's not with the team anymore. They drafted Bubba Starling, a local kid who was an outfielder. I think they drafted him like 6th overall, right ahead of Anthony Rendon and ahead of Francisco Lindor. And he's been a huge bust. They drafted Kyle Zimmer in the 2012 draft you mentioned. I believe he went number 8 overall, ahead of some other really intriguing arms. Lucas Giolito, I know, is one of them. Corey Seager is another guy that was on the board when they drafted Zimmer, and he's been a huge bust so far. So they've had some really poor drafts, and they're a team that really can't afford to have poor drafts. So you ask me, what could they use? They could use everything right now. What they need really is elite talent, because they've got a couple of guys that can be guys. Like Jorge Bonifacio is coming up. He's come up, and he's had a really good month. I don't think he's going to be like an all-star or anything, but he's come up and he's hit 7 home runs this month, which is really impressive. He'll probably cool off eventually, but he's a guy that can step up and be probably an okay league average right fielder. That's great. They have a couple guys like that. They don't have anyone that can be like an elite talent. They're going to lose Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, Lorenzo Cain, at least a couple of those guys. They don't have anyone to replace those kind of guys. They don't have any future all-stars in their system. So I think this July, when they have some of these guys that are available to trade, and I should mention like Kelvin Herrera is another guy that's come up. He's not a free agent, but he's a guy that has another year left before free agency. I think he's a guy that's going to attract a lot of interest as well, just because we know are so hot right now on the market. But I think, when they look at the July 31st trade deadline, they're going to look at just restocking this system. What kind of elite talent can we put in this system right now that gives us hope that we have a future all-star in this system? Because right now, they don't have a future all-star in the system right now, at least unless someone takes a huge step forward in the next year. There's a couple of guys I think have some upside. Josh Staumont is a guy that I like a lot. He's in AAA Omaha right now. Throws 100 miles an hour, but just has little idea of where the ball is going. He's walking like 6 or 7 per 9 innings, which is just an absurdly high total for a starting pitcher. He's a guy that may end up in the bullpen just because of those command issues. But if he's ever able to harness that, he's a really smart guy. He's got some pretty good secondary pitches. He'd be a 4. He'd be an ace type pitcher. He can never throw strikes, but that's still been an ongoing issue with him. But other than that, I just don't see a whole lot of elite talent in the system right now. So they're going to really have to restock. They've got 4 picks in the top 90 in the June draft here in a couple weeks. They've got an opportunity to restock the system at the July 31st trade deadline. They're going to have to. That's going to be their main goal. They're going to have to put some talent in that pipeline to replace the all-stars that we've been used to seeing in the playoffs the last couple of years, because they just don't have anything in the system right now.
And so, Max, I think you can answer sort of a question for us. There was a bit of a thought exercise going around among Tigers fans recently, as it appears Tigers have come to the end of basically a decade-long run of good baseball. And the Tigers fans, we've seen tons and tons of winning and lots of incredible individual accomplishments. Multiple MVPs, Cy Youngs, Rookies of the Year, and even a Triple Crown. But they never did win the World Series. And so people ask, would you trade this 10-year run of all this stuff for one World Series championship? And it seems like that's what the Royals have gotten. There was a lot of bad baseball and then 3 years of really good baseball, and now it seems heading down again. And so I guess my question is, would you trade one for the other?
Yes, that's an interesting question. And I mean, it was kind of a short period of contention for the Royals. So they had probably, you would say, 4 years of contending, and really, only 2 of really serious contention, because so they were good in 2013, but they were really on the periphery of the wild card race. And then, of course, they had the run in 2014 and 15. And then last year, they were only kind of in it for a couple of weeks, and then they kind of fell out. So you really, I think if you're really being honest, you'd say they were only contenders for 2 years. But I mean, for 2 years, they were in the World Series. I mean, it's a short period, but it's a high peak. And yeah, I don't think I would trade that for 10 years of sustained greatness. Really, the Tigers were kind of the beast of the Central for many years there, and we were intimidated by that team for many years and felt like you guys had the most talent. But yeah, it's just weird that they were never able to kind of get over that hump in October. I'm a Kansas Jayhawks basketball fan, so that's kind of how I feel like their basketball program has been in the NCAA tournament. Just great excellence in the regular season, but they just haven't been able to get over the hump in March. And I would trade. Yeah, and I would certainly trade that for 1 year of championship and then 5 years of losing basketball. So yeah, I mean it's kind of weird that we put so much emphasis on what happens in October, because if you think about it, what's more impressive is that sustained regular season success. The Tigers winning lots of division titles, winning lots of regular season games. Honestly, the Royals, 2014, they were an 89-win team that just got hot at the right time and ended up going to the World Series. And 2015, I thought they were a really good team, but it was just 1 year really. So we should probably praise the Tigers more for their sustained excellence, but in this culture, we just, flags fly forever, championship rings matter, and that's what we as fans kind of put more stock in. So, I wouldn't trade that championship year for anything, I think. I mean, it really was for Royals fans, I think, just kind of redemption for sticking with that team through all those bad years, all those 100-loss seasons, were finally worth it, because we got to have that taste of success, that championship that we can kind of, we can be bad the next 5 years and we can still brag about 2015, because that flag will fly forever. So yeah, it's a remarkable experience. And hopefully, to be honest, I think I've told you this before. I was born in Detroit. My dad's a Tigers fan. I kind of grew up a Royals and a Tigers fan since they were in different divisions. So part of me really would like to see Detroit get that again someday, because it's such a great city and it's a great fan base. And I think they will, because I think that the will is there and they've got some good people in place. But yeah, certainly it's a great experience as a fan that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
It makes sense. I mean, you're right. The World Series title, and I mean, I tell myself and I tell everybody when we do this podcast that I do like the successful run considering the Tigers how bad they were in the 90s, and you can relate with the Royals being the same way, but at the same token, I wouldn't trade the Maglio AL batting championship and the Triple Crown, none of that sort. So it's hard. But then again, like I said, seeing all the excitement, the Royals fans, seeing the parade, seeing all that, I had to bite my lip a little bit. I'm not going to lie, but at the same token, Kansas City is such a great baseball town, and just seeing the joy in George Brett's face, I'm a little jealous. But I will say the one thing about the rumbling news for the day when you are wrapping up your articles and the articles you links, including LeVar Ball, Coach I'm not a big fan of LeVar Ball's antics, but the 52-point loss and the highlight reel. I don't like the fact that his son's highlight reel is out there, but nevertheless, it was still pretty funny. The song of the day. Is there something you just come up with? Because I know that there's another. I forgot the Royals writer that has the replacements. Because I'm a big fan of the replacements. I love music. Chris is both Chris and I are both hip hop fans too. But I love all kinds of music. But at any rate, what is the last question? Really is, where does a song come from? I mean, I know yesterday was Last Soldier at Pearl Jam, which was fitting, of course. But it's just the songs that come to you, or do you get some sort of like inspiration? How does that song come to you? These songs come to you when you post a blog?
Yeah, so like every morning we have kind of like a morning news dump where we give like Royals news and baseball news. Like today we talked about the Bryce Harper, Giants debacle, and then we some other sports news like the hilarious LeVar Ball beatdown in basketball. And then we ended up with like a little song of the day, and usually it depends. Some days I like to try to do something that's kind of links with the news. Like today we did the Allman Brothers because of Greg Allman's passing, and there might be something that kind of is a funny aside because of what happened in the Royals game the night before. Then some of it's just like music I like. I'm not like a big like a music snob or aficionado. Like my cultural tastes are like stuck in the 90s. Like what I liked in high school is what I play a lot. And I've got a couple other writers that do the morning dump sometimes, and I think they have more eclectic, more modern tastes than I do. But I've asked friends too, like, hey, do you have a couple of recommendations? And they've got a little more wider variety because I like a lot of I guess 90s rock and punk and 80s punk and 80s like electronic stuff. But I've got other friends that like other stuff, heavy metal and hip hop and stuff like that. So they'll recommend stuff too. But it's just whatever kind of strikes me. And if I can make it kind of funny to do with the Royals game or what's in the news, then I'll do that. But it's kind of like just something to give our fans like and our readers make them feel like it's part of community. Because what we do is, you can get Royals news and analysis in a lot of places. But I think we are more of a community where we discuss things and we commiserate over losses or we celebrate after wins, and it just kind of makes it something to give the fans a more of an idea that this is kind of a home for them, and that's part of the reason why I like doing it so much, and it's a nice treat for me to be able to do, and I hope people enjoy it. And I'm glad you recognize it a little bit. So thanks.
Oh, no problem. It's just because it just adds a little bit of a different feel to these blogs, and I find it funny, especially the one that you pinned on your tweet, the lights out's less dangerous, here we go, now entertain us, and the Bryce Harper's hair flop around like a shampoo commercial. So so if you want to follow Max on Twitter, it's at Max RIEPER and RoyalsReview.com, and you can follow them too as well, Royals Review at Royals Review. And one last question, this is the last quick question. Is Pat Mahomes going to be the starting quarterback for the Chiefs by the end of the season, or is Alex Smith going to hold on to his job for dear life?
I'm not the football expert, but it seems like most people think Mahomes is going to get a start before the end of the year, and that Alex Smith is kind of a placeholder. I guess I don't know what Andy Reid's history is with it. I know he had Donovan McNabb in Philly, and I don't know how quickly he started, but everyone's pretty high on Patrick Mahomes, and it's been 33 years, I think, since we drafted a quarterback in the first round. We usually just get 49ers rejects. So I think people are pretty pumped. Even if he can fall flat on his face, I think everyone's just excited that they finally took the chance to take a quarterback in the first round. So, people are pretty excited about it. I think, and there's going to be a lot of pressure, I think, the first time Alex Smith misses a wide open receiver. So, he'll probably start before too long, I think.
Well, I mean, you have to race. I mean, it took 33 years to erase the taste of Todd Blackledge out of your mouth. So I guess, I mean, that makes perfect sense. So, Max, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it, and we look forward to anything else. Anything you want to plug real quick before we get you out of here?
No, yeah, we have all the. There's going to be a lot of trade rumors in the next couple of weeks. So you go to RoyalsReview.com for all the coverage of all the trade rumors. We'll break down the analysis of all the trade rumors that are following the Royals. And of course, we have a lot of draft stuff coming up too, with the Royals having a bunch of picks in the draft upcoming in a couple weeks. So, come visit Royals Review and then check out our song of the day as well.
All right, Max, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, welcome back to Tigers SRD here on SportsRadioDetroit.com. Thanks to Max Reaper for joining us from Royals Review. As that was a good segment, Chris. I definitely like it when he comes on and talks Royals, and knowing full well there's another farm system out there that's just as worse than we are. So there we go.
Yeah, misery loves company.
Misery does love company. So before we get to, there's a couple things left in the last segment. We have a couple questions. Our Robert James tweeted us some questions. His obscure Tiger, by the way, was Craig Paquette. Yeah, former Cardinal. So we'll get to that and some other questions. Did you get any questions on Facebook, Chris, this week?
Let me check. I didn't see any earlier today, but I'll check right now. I doubt it.
All right.
Usually, it seems to depend on what time I ask. And let's see. We got 5 things. Let's see.
What was your intent?
Oh, and a friend request.
Ooh.
This is important. Let's see, who could it be?
Who could it be now? Yeah.
Mention me in a comment. No, we got nothing.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Marquise may have asked something.
Did he ask? Yes. He's been listening on a regular basis.
So, when are you taking questions for Tigers SRD? I got a doozy for fighting in baseball. But he didn't ask a question, so.
Of course, he should know every Tuesday or Wednesday we record. But, so the Tigers did not put much of a fight, speaking of fighting, against the White Sox. Bad segue into, what was this? This weekend series was one of those series that, honestly, Chris, it was frustrating to watch. The White Sox had a really friendly strike zone. Phil Cuzzi, I had no idea what he was doing that was a Friday game, but you go out and you get struck out by Mike Pelfrey, who had his highest strike total in 2 years?
Yeah.
That was bad, Chris. I mean, the entire series just seemed, it was just a listless team, and Jordan Zimmerman got lit up again. But the one bright side of this all was Buck Farmer's performance on Saturday. Went out and struck out 11, and I really, really came away impressed with his start. Chris, what did you see in Buck Farmer's start?
Well, I didn't see that coming, that's for sure, because he had been a guy who had basically had one above-average outing in the majors to this point in his career, and that was and then he ended up giving up like 6 runs in the 6th inning of that outing. But he's always been a guy with good stuff. Particularly, he's got a fastball in the low to mid 90s and a changeup that's really, really can be a swing and miss pitch for him. He had issues earlier in his career with his fastball being a little straight, so he was developing a 2-seamer when I talked to him a couple years ago, and he seems to have scrapped his slider in favor of a tighter cutter and then a slower curveball. So he's working with 4 pitches now. The main issue I have with Farmer is I think he's never going to have major league average command because he's got a pretty I don't know if it's a violent delivery, but he's got a rough finish where like a pretty pronounced head whack, whereas his head jerks off to the side. I said jerks off. His head jerks violently to the side. But, I mean, with that performance, it's tough to not give him another start, given the way that Zimmerman is performing, and Boyd has been kind of listless lately. If you get a guy coming up and striking out 11 and not giving up any runs, you kind of have to give him another chance, really. I don't know how they're going to do that, but yeah, that was. It's funny to think he was the one winner in that 4-game set. But yeah, I mean, the offense was just, I think you said it right, listless. There was the one game, I looked it up, that I think they walked 9 times and didn't score a run, which has only been done like 11 times in the last 40 years. So, I mean, it takes a special level of ineptitude to walk that many times and not score. So just something just seemed off with them. And it was nice to see them break out against the Royals the other day, but here we are again, and it's in the 8th inning, and they have no runs, and I think 3 hits. So something's way off with this offense.
Yeah, you know what, though? I will say that it's good to see, and if we could take a positive, I mean, I try not to be such a cynical asshole on the show, but I will take a couple positives away from the series in the sense from an offensive standpoint. One is Dixon Machado's average. He went from a 212 to 282. He has a hit and he's batting leadoff in tonight's game as of recording. He's 1 for 3 as of the time of recording, heading into the top of the 8th inning. So it's good to see Machado. Seems like he's hitting the ball. Yes, when you're on the bench quite a bit, you're not getting the quality at bat, so it kind of throws your rhythm off. So I get it, but it's good. I mean, despite Ian Kinsler going down to the DL, this is kind of a positive to see what they have in Dixon Machado in the sense of what they have with him, and if they decide to do a fire sale, if they decide to trade Kinsler, to see what they have with Machado.
Yeah, now second base, you would want a more offensive player, but if you're rebuilding, you can live with a really good defender at second base who can hit and get on base a little bit. Remember the offseason, I was suggesting maybe they trade Iglesias and play Machado every day. So it is nice. They were struggling to find playing time for him, so it's nice for him to get in there and perform pretty well. And what just happened will probably get talked about on Twitter a lot, right? But Jose Iglesias was just picked off with 2 outs in the 8th inning, trying to get into scoring position in a 1-0 game. So people are going to be pretty upset about that. But that's just the way it goes with this team. I mean, you got to wonder how long before people start calling for Lloyd McClendon's head. Right? There's certainly been plenty of fire Osmus talk, but when the offense. When Miguel Cabrera is not hitting, Victor Martinez is heated up a little bit. He's still not hitting much. Castellanos is in a huge funk. Upton is down again. It's an offense on paper that should be really good, and it's not doing anything right now, it's incredibly frustrating. Correct.
Yeah. How do you get picked off in the 8th inning? That's just. I mean, seriously. It's worth. I'm gonna play it again. Screw it. Come on, I mean, seriously, for the love of God, man. I mean,
you're trying to get in scoring position because you're not expecting Machado to hit hit an extra base hit, but still, I mean, you can't get picked off. And
this is not Whitey Herzog baseball, Chris. Come on.
No, and I think if you think about it, I'm not sure where Machado is hitting in the lineup, but that may keep Cabrera from hitting in the 9th.
Machado's batting leadoff today.
Oh, is he? Okay,
yeah.
So Cabrera will hit, but then did that make it keep Vmart or JD from hitting? It's a big gaffe. But we've seen that just fundamental stuff all year long. That's right. That there's just an impending sense of dread, I think, among Tigers fans that this is it. This team needs to be disbanded. That they're not going to get it done. I still believe in the sort of magic of baseball where a team can catch fire and win 12 games in a row. The Tigers technically have the talent to do so. It just seems like they need something to spark them. Remember, I don't know if it was last year or year before, it seemed like the Brad Osmus tirade where he threw his sweatshirt on home plate gave the team a spark. And that's all just kind of, narrative stuff. But who knows? Maybe they need a tirade.
Honestly, I mean, as I'm playing Huey Lewis in the news here, if this is it, it is kind of. It feels like it does feel like it's playing in the background. I know you can't really.
You might need I need a new drug.
That's actually that's probably a better fit for this, but. Honestly, as we try to act a little more media friendly here on Tigers SRD, you know what? Actually, because I don't want to be too depressing, but as we play Huey Lewis in the news, if this is it, but it does feel the sense of dread, Carissa, because you and I think we've been pretty optimistic. I said the wild card. I think you said the wild card if they lucked out and everything, and this weekend was just. It was awful. It was awful, and just all right, I'm gonna turn off Huey Lewis in the news because that song's gonna stick in my head for the rest of my night.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a season where it almost feels like if fans had been running things, the team actually would be a little bit better because K-Rod would have been out of the closing job much earlier. Those two losses to the A's still sting like crazy because those were games they should have won. But this most recent stretch, it's a mix of, they played the Astros, who have been one of the hottest teams in baseball all year, and they were close in those games, but just couldn't get it done. And then the White Sox series was just a big bummer, and they had the, complaining about the late flights and the lack of sleep and stuff like that, which is, nothing makes Joe Sixpack angrier than hearing these ball players complain. But I think you pointed out on Twitter. I mean, it's one thing to get 3 hours of sleep and then go work on an assembly line for 8 hours or 12 hours. Obviously, it's hard to do, but you're not facing 95-mile-an-hour pitches or higher coming at your head and having to hit them. I mean, it's not a matter of hard work. It's a matter of extreme skill, and extreme skill goes by the wayside when you're exhausted.
Let's talk about that before we hit the farm system. Listen, I don't feel sorry for these guys. I work 12 back-to-back hours, and I don't bitch and bitch. Yeah, you do. You complain to your wife. You complain to your friends. You complain when you have to go in on overtime, so shut up. You're no different than anybody else. So that was what really pissed me off. And then seeing these, it's just like, Joey Sixpack or, Joey Suds or whatever, the fact that you have a curveball that's breaking at you 3 or 4 inches and you're running on no sleep, you get off a plane, and they're like, well, these are pampered athletes. And the guy who started the whole segment, which I'm not going to say his name, anyways, is an Indians fan. So and even some of these radio hosts are like, come on, guys, how hard is your job? It's like you are in a radio station, 20 pounds, 30 pounds overweight, and I can't talk. Honestly, these guys are, you're talking for a living. These players are well-conditioned athletes that are still human beings. They're not superhuman. To blame, Brad Ausmus had a point. He was frustrated, but I'm so sick of that narrative. These are pampered athletes that get millions of dollars that shouldn't bitch. And then I don't want to hear you bitch about you not getting any sleep either, about your job or how crappy. People who complain about the loudest about athletes are the ones who are usually not happy with their position in life sometimes. It seems like to me.
Yeah, no, people who complain are the ones who just wish that was them. They wish they were the ones playing, and obviously we all do. We wish we were taking flights across the country at 4 a.m. We wish our life was that rough. But it really is. It's just an excuse to complain about teams that aren't performing well. And really, I mean, no one ever likes to hear any types of excuses from professional athletes. They like to hear, "Hey, we didn't get the job done." That's just the way it is. And really, I mean, no one should complain more than the Mariners. God, they don't have a team anywhere close to them. They fly like twice as much as any other team in baseball, but that's just the way it is. And it can't be any fun to finish a game at midnight, get on a plane at 2 a.m, arrive at your destination at 4, and then have to play like 8 hours later. It's or even 10, 12 hours later. I mean, there are studies that show people who get irregular sleep, it's like as bad for you as smoking. So this isn't just guys complaining. It's tough.
It's science
on the system. Yeah, science, people. Look it up.
Yeah, and another thing too is why do baseball players get that? I feel like if NHL players NHL hockey players never complain about this stuff. Yeah, they're not, because no one cares about hockey. Sorry, no, seriously. In the grand scheme of things, you might get a lot of shit for that comment, but oh well. But what I'm saying is, people in general won't. I mean, and I will say that Detroit doesn't count for this hockey statement, but still, the point I'm trying to make is that these guys are just as human as you are. So, Joe Schmo working at your average office or in the factory line, your job is hard. Your job is hard to you, and I get it. And I work in an office. My job is data analytics. That's my day job. You know what? It's hard and it's boring and what have you. Yeah, but you know what? I would love to be hitting a ball somewhere, going out to San Francisco and go to a ballpark every day and play baseball for 8 to 9 hours. That'd be sweet. But guess what? That's not my life. But I'm not going to sit there and hate them for them having their life.
Yeah, I mean, it also kind of sucks when you think about it. I mean, everybody wanted Tyler Collins gone from the team a while ago.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
But, I mean, he had 2 bad months. I mean, he was never, much of a player, but you have 2 bad months and you're off the team. I mean, he had no options. He's back in the minors. His prospects for his future and his life are kind of way up in the air now. And that's, again, I'd probably take that in a minute. But still, I mean, these are people, and the stuff that happens to them kind of sucks sometimes.
It's like this, it just seems like everybody just wants to. It kind of reminds me of the scene in Anchorman where everybody's just like, it's Brick Tannerman just screaming, just, this is how Twitter is sometimes to me.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
No, it's exactly. I saw something today about Twitter is like half people yelling about something and half other people trying to figure out what they're yelling about. And it's, but I don't know. It makes the games more fun to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
Yeah, it's just... all right, so let's get to the farm system real quick. Congratulations. By the way, congratulations is in order to a recent call-up for the Tigers, who, after 12 years in the minors, has made it way up. Leon, who we thought was going to get the call before. We thought he was going to get the call before, but it looks like he's now up, and he did pitch one scoreless inning, so that's awesome. And congratulations to him.
Yeah, it's been in more than 420 games in the minors. As a guy who throws hard in the mid 90s, and he's got a solid slider. I think his issue will be that his fastball's kind of straight, which has happened. That's been the death of a lot of relief pitchers. But for now, it's nice to see him up here, and maybe he can figure something out. Maybe Rich Doobie can help him get a new grip, and he can get some movement on that fastball. Maybe he can help out. But it's definitely a cool story. But yeah, that the minors in general right now, they get the four regular season teams or full season affiliates. 3 of them are just going down the tubes super quickly. All 4 of the teams lost tonight, by the way, which is a bummer. But Toledo has fallen out of first place after being there for most of the first 6 weeks. Erie is slipping. Lakeland has lost 9 of 10 games. Only West Michigan has been playing well, and they've been playing about as well as anybody in all of baseball, although they've just lost 2 games in a row for the first time, or just the second time in May. But there wasn't a whole lot to get excited about in the upper levels last week. There was Anibal Sanchez making 2 starts in Toledo, which garnered some attention. But beyond that, there wasn't no real standout performances. Erie, though, the Gabriel Quintana had a week to remember in Erie. He had a 3-homer game on Monday in a ridiculous game where the Seawolves were up 13-9 heading into the 9th and lost 14-13. And then Quintana hit 3 home runs in that game, and Kristen Stewart hit his 13th. And then Quintana had 2 more home runs during the week. So he ended up, I think, 5 home runs and 2 doubles in the week. His slugging percentage was over 1,000 for the week. So I think he was named Eastern League Player of the Week. And we've had questions about him before. Is he a real prospect? And the answer is not really. He's kind of Stephen Moya at third base, which maybe you could use. If the Tigers do go in a complete fire sale mode, we might see him up, striking out 160 times and hitting 220 with 20 home runs. And then let's see, down in Lakeland, the story down there was Anthony Gose, which got plenty of publicity too. He hitting 99 supposedly in his first pitch and sitting in the high 90s. I didn't see nearly as much people or publicity about his second outing where he walked 2 guys, got a sacrifice bunt, and then hit a third guy and got yanked, and ended up taking the loss. But I think anybody who thought it might be a smooth path for Ghost to the majors is fooling themselves. I mean, it's going to take a lot, and judging by some of his outfield throws, the accuracy on those, it's going to be tough for him to rein in this command and control. So who knows? But there were other good performances. Funkhauser had another awesome start for Lakeland. He's been really impressive this year altogether. And then Burroughs had a couple. He had a really nice start, 6-inning start. I think he struck out a career high 9. So he's leading the Florida State League in ERA by half a run. So the Tigers have 2 really interesting, good pitching prospects down there. So that's a plus. And then you head down to West Michigan, like where I said, I think they went 6-1 last week. Just rolling along, got into first place. Had a 12 strikeout performance from Anthony Castro, who Tigetown is really high on, and that's he's a really interesting prospect. they've been knocking the stuffing out of the ball. Blaze Salter has 22 doubles. I think the record in the Midwest League is like 51, and he's on pace for something like 60. We'll see if he stays there all year. He's 23, but yeah, they're playing really well. And then the highlight of that of their week was, I think it was Sunday night. There was it was a 1-1 game, and Dayton Dragons player, I think his last name is Siri. He stole second, and it looked like Whitecaps shortstop Daniel Pinheiro stepped on his leg. I don't know if it was accidental or on purpose, but it led to a shoving match and then a brawl. And a player from the Whitecaps came out of the dugout and threw a baseball, like as hard as he could, at another player on Dayton. It was one of the strangest things I've seen. So and I haven't heard any fallout from that yet, other than the ejections from that game. So you can actually see that if you go on YouTube. You can see, if you type in Whitecaps and Dragons, you'll see the brawl. It wasn't a ton of punches thrown, but it's still kind of an interesting event to see. But that's your basic week in the minors, which was fairly eventful, even though 3 teams are playing really poorly.
Yeah, and Tyler Alexander, I saw struggled again. He got rocked. I believe it was Thursday or Friday. He looks a little lost out there, man.
Yeah, he pitched tonight and gave up just 2 runs, but it wasn't enough to get the win. So yeah, it's been a really rough season for him. He's pitched much worse this year in Double-A than he did last year. I think I was pointing out in my weekly recap that he'd given up 5 runs or more just 3 times, I think, in his first 36, 37 starts as a professional. And this year he's done it 5 or 6 times in just 9 or 10 starts. So something's wrong with him right now. He's never had the best stuff. So maybe his stuff is backed up a little bit, or maybe he's fighting an injury, or his mechanics. But I would say his star has faded a little bit. I shouldn't judge too much because I haven't been out there and seen him. Maybe it's just a ton of bad luck, bad fielding, but that seems unlikely. He's walking more guys and giving up harder contact. So, but you never know. He's moved pretty quickly, so I wouldn't give up on him by any means. But it's he's always a guy who's going to have a kind of a thin margin for error.
Yeah, and you're right. He has to mix up his speeds really well, and if he doesn't, if he misses, it's not going to end well for him. But yeah, that brawl, I did see it, the video of it, the replay, and it looks like it just looked like an accident just went a little wrong, but the teams got heated pretty quick. So
yeah, that's the first and second place team, and so that's going to be a heated series for the rest of the year. I assume that they're back in the day, the Whitecaps and Lugnuts used to brawl it out seemingly every year. And then, fight for first and second place. Back when Gorky Hernandez was winning the MVP, it got to be like 2008, 2009, maybe in 2007. But yeah, I don't know. It's fun. We'll be heading out there on Saturday, so it'll be good to see.
Yeah. So Saturday we're heading out there. We'll be for the 7:00 game against the Lugnuts. So we'll get a chance to see Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah, Vladdy Jr.
Yeah, Vladdy Jr. there. Thank you. I don't know why. I was thinking, for some reason, I was thinking Pedro Guerrero. I don't know why. So why would I? Pedro Guerrero. I was doing cocaine with Pedro Guerrero. No, he was doing the girl.
The juice.
The juice.
You're going to do a rehab.
You going to rehab. They call me the juice. All right. So, anyways, for anybody that gets that reference, if anybody could say that reference, we'll give you a high five or a, Henry Candy Bar. There we go.
It reminds me, I owe you four cheeseburgers or a quadruple cheeseburger.
All right, so I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get a double cheeseburger on the way there and a double cheeseburger on the way back.
Right,
see, that's imaginary. That's imaginative right there. So, we're out of time. Thank you so much for listening to Tigers SRD here on SportsRadioDetroit.com. Don't forget to check out all our great content. New episode of SRD Roadshow as we once again debated LeBron versus Jordan, and I don't know why we did that, which is all subjective because decades don't matter. But for the sake of show fodder and me just being the producer, I thought it was fun, and they went and talked about it. Marquise, the new episode of Fanarchy's up as he was running on 2 hours sleep so he could play NBA 2K17, and the 11-year-old who snitched on his father for selling drugs. So check out the new episode of Fanarchy. And it's going to be interesting. And a new episode of Out of Bounds Detroit drops on Thursday. So for myself, I'm Roger Castillo. And
I'm Chris Brown.
Yeah, that's the first time we've done this, first time like this. And we'll have some stuff for you from Saturday. Chris and I will be heading out there. We'll have some audio, and should be a good time. And we're looking forward to meeting Hookslide, who we're going to meet up with him at some point. Dan Hasty. Are we meeting up with Dan? I think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll meet him. He's there all day, and he'll be grabbing some players for us and stuff.
So, yeah, thanks to Dan, and I'm looking forward to having a beer with Hookslide, or a soda or two, depends. And we're out.
Push up, overload, legendary, heavy glow, sunshine on the road.